From the Audi Performance Studio, welcome to Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM.
The Jets fall to the Dallas Cowboys. Final score 30-10 in Dallas. Here in Florham Park, Ethan Greenberg, Quincy Enunwa. Let's bring in Anthony Becht virtually. AB, let's start with you. Quincy and I watching the game here. As you're watching the game from Florida, as you're seeing this unfold, didn't really feel like the Jets – it felt like the Jets got behind and they weren't able to respond to play the brand of football that we're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I think the trenches for me were very disappointing. Offensive line had no sit or sink in their pass protection today. They weren't able to run the ball at all, which was really disappointing. The best player on this team offensively, I don't care what anybody says, is Breece Hall. And I don't know how many touches he had, but it wasn't enough. I think maybe 4 or 5 touches in this game. Never established the run. And I'm not sure where the creativity was early in this game. If you thought for 2 seconds that Zach Wilson was going to be the guy who was going to win this football game for you, he wasn't. He was going to be a contributing factor to helping you win this game. But the pieces in place, the weapons in place, were going to be the ones that made those plays, getting the ball in their hands. Guys like Mecole Hartman, a quick joker kind of player, really wasn't seen today. He wasn't a guy that was given an option today. So what was the creativity in helping? Because you're Dallas, you're saying, okay, we're going to take away the run. Okay, Zach Wilson has to beat us. What's the plan? I mean, that was the plan on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this past week. Defensively, there was no pass rush at all, period. Defensive line, it was kind of a stinker today. And it's only one game. I got to reiterate that. But it is what it is. That's what we saw. Dak Prescott had all day. He had a plan. And clearly Mike McCarthy is a pretty good play caller because he had them on their heels pretty much the whole game. And one man beat them today. All right, CeeDee Lamb. We didn't have a plan for him either because I would have at least tried to force the ball out of somebody else's hands besides CeeDee Lamb in this game. So, this defense is really good. We know what they should be. We know how they want to be. But again, the third downs on both sides of the ball were not there. It was just kind of a complete letdown across the board and just wasn't expected. I just felt like guys were going to step up in areas, in particular the fact with A-Rod down, you have Zach Wilson, try to get him into a rhythm, try to give him some quick opportunities to get the ball out of his hands, but feed the ball, be creative, find some plays to keep Dallas off balance. And all I saw Dallas do was pin their tails back and come at Zach in the quick game, in the short game, in the mid-passing game, whatever that was. So they weren't fooled. The downs that were downs to throw were easy to pinpoint, and that's what they did. They took advantage of it. So there were opportunities left on the field early in the game. We'll get into those things down into the show with some drop picks and here and there. But again, just matching the intensity for the first quarter. All right, delivering the punch up front on both sides of the ball. I just felt like if those are the things you can control right out the gate, and if that was going to be anything for the message for this team to do outside of trying to make some plays on either side of the ball, was come out and be physical. And I just felt like they weren't that up front, especially in the trenches. And that's disappointing. And you heard Robert Saleh say that as well.
And Anthony made a ton of great points. Quincy, I want to get your opinion on the offense because Anthony talks about Breece Hall only getting 4 touches. He had 4 rushes for 9 yards. He had a couple chunk plays, but then he had a decent amount of negative plays. Not that they were his fault, just the Dallas defensive line. It's a legitimate front. Micah Parsons was everywhere tonight against the New York Jets. And if you were to script how you wanted this offense to perform for Zach Wilson, his first start, in what really is a year where if you're a Jets fan, you didn't really want to see Zach Wilson take the field because you're hoping Aaron Rodgers would be the quarterback for 17 games. That's not the case. What did you make, or how would you, in a perfect scenario, script an offense for Zach Wilson against this Dallas defense on the road, his first start of the season?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, well, first off, you got to love a passionate A-B speech in the beginning of the show. I mean,
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, anytime you get one of those, you got to sit down and soak it in, right? Because he gave a lot of great points during that. I think it's tough. when you have a defense like Dallas, I don't think the Jets really knew what to expect. They went into this game kind of assuming probably the wrong things. There was not really many coaching changes. I think that's what needed to happen, some adjustments, right? The players can only do so much, but they were getting attacked in the same spots over and over again on the defensive side, and offensively they couldn't get anything going. As soon as it became passing down, what are you supposed to do if now you got a Micah Parsons, one of the best pass rushers in the league, with his ears pinned back, knowing exactly what to do? You saw so many times he lined up over the center and he was moving around, and then he would make the perfect rush. Line up over the tackle, move around, and make the perfect rush. I mean, it's just challenging for a guy like Zach Wilson to be back there and know what to do. So I think the most important thing to me is, how are the coaches going to adjust? Because, again, the players can only do so much. They can't see what's going on the field from that outside perspective that the coaches have. And so, when they're attacking these zones on the defensive side, and when they're attacking the line and not giving you opportunities to make the runs or the passes that you need, there needs to be an adjustment so that you can have a better game.
Anthony, when watching this game, what did you make of the 2-minute drive at the end of the half with Zach Wilson leading the Jets on an 11-play, 59-yard drive? He used his legs a decent amount. He actually led the team with 36 rushing yards at the end of this game. But when you see him in that setting, is that the Zach Wilson that you think this Jets team can have moving forward?
You know why it worked? It was a tempo change. All right. I know it was a 2-minute, but it was a change of tempo. Dallas had to play differently in that situation. All right. So now, 4 guys were rushing. When they got in a bad position with their rush, Zach was able to do something with his legs. They spread them out. Obviously, 2-minute situation. You see that happen, you're saying to yourself, okay, to Quincy's point, that may be something we try coming out in the second half. Let's spread these guys out. You can even run out of that. One back runs, they're not bad either, trying to take advantage of those situations. But, it was a good drive. I mean, it was nice to see that, move down the field and use his legs. That's what we kind of thought it would be. You start crunching things down, a couple tight ends, and I love tight ends, guys. Don't get me wrong, okay? But when you got big, defensive, athletic, strong defensive linemen that play on a team that just come at you, better get holes and be able to run the football. Because if you don't, it's just going to clamor everything up, and you're not going to give your quarterback a chance. So how were you neutralizing Parsons in this game? I don't know. How many chips were there? I'm going to have to go back and watch that. But what were you doing to shake him up? Did you cut him? Did you have 2 guys on him? Did you slide protection? Did you do max protection? Or run a 2-man route? Because Garrett Wilson's good enough to win a 2-man route, okay? Maybe Garrett, Mecole Hardman, and Lazard, 3-man route, and then you have protection with your back, and you keep your tight end in. And if they don't come, you could chip your tight end out late or your back, okay? So, look, I'm not telling you how to run plays. It's just, again, it's what you see, what's working. You got to adjust, right? You can't pound salt and figure out it's going to work. The game was relatively close early on, but once you saw the way the Cowboys were going offensively and defensively in this game, and that was really your only true movement of the football, that tempo, maybe try that again and see. What's the worst thing that can happen? You punt it away and you go out and you do something different. So, again, it's a learning phase. It is one game, like I said, but in that moment, those are the things in game you got to try to think about is how can we help the quarterback be successful and get these guys away from the quarterback in these passing situations. Spreading them out early may have been a way to mix it up.
Anthony, Quincy said it off the top of the show. You're fired up right now, okay? And I just want to know, after watching this game, after breaking this game down in a couple minutes with the two of us in the studio before we go fully into it, what is the thing for the top of mind from you that's really the origin of this fire after watching the game?
Well, I think it's just for me is, look, A-Rod's not there, okay? So there's got to be an internal urgency from every player, okay? Zach's up, all right? You got your plan. Zach said he felt good about the plan, okay? But you got to go out there, and guys got to play at a different level. You're fresh. It's early in the season. The best thing to do is go out and sell out now because you're healthy, you feel great, and you got to get your quarterback feeling confident about something, okay? If your defense doesn't get off the field and he's watching the Dallas Cowboys get up and down the field on a defense that we're talking about supposed to be the best in the league, okay? You got to do those things. Everybody's got to step up their game. Up front in the trenches is where it's got to start. It did not play that way today for whatever reason, okay? this. Maybe they're just better mano across the board in the trenches. Maybe that was the case, but for whatever reason, okay, in particular offensively, they couldn't set the tone in this football game. And quite frankly, that's the reason why there's passion about it, because guys are gone. Like you're not nicked up, okay? You're not sore. You're going. Your body feels good. Like urgency levels got to go. The importance of the first couple games of Zach Wilson playing and just making sure that you come out and sell out, okay, every single snap. You'll worry about your body and everything else later. And not that the effort wasn't there, because there's a plenty of effort across the board. But the Dallas Cowboys brought a different attitude with their effort, okay? So what was the difference in between the two effort? It was the attitude and the want at the point of attack that was the difference maker in this game.
The New York Jets, Zach Wilson specifically, 12 completions, 27 attempts, only completed 44.4% of those. He had the touchdown to Garrett Wilson. He threw for 3 interceptions, all in the fourth quarter. Can't really take a whole lot of stock into those. Take it with a grain of salt, as we discussed earlier. But for this Jets defense, Quincy, Anthony Beck mentioned it. CeeDee Lamb, 11 catches, 143 yards. Their second leading receiver was Tony Pollard, who only had 37 receiving yards on 7 catches. This, as a whole, felt like an uncharacteristic Jets defense that we've seen over the past season, and now 1 game and 2 games now in the 2023 season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to give the Cowboys credit, though. They're a talented team, right? They didn't beat the Giants 40-0 for no reason. So that's one of the biggest things that I think is important to remember during this game, is that they didn't play chumps, right? They played a talented team, a team that has gone to the playoffs, may go to the playoffs again this year. But when you look at the play calling, when you look at some of the things that went on today, it just, like you said, it wasn't characteristic, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there needs to be some adjustments. I continue to say that because, it's unfortunate that you watch this game and you see that those plays continue to happen. They talk about bend but don't break. They talk about not allowing big plays, and they didn't allow big plays. That's great. But then there's so many other smaller plays that were happening, and then CeeDee Lamb was just coming up big for his quarterback. From the very first play that he got the pass, he had a double move, a great catch over DJ Reed. So those are the plays that you need from the offensive side as well, right? You need your receivers, you need your guys straining, coming up big for your guys, so that then you can have a little bit of a morale boost, and then it can continue to flow into bigger plays.
And with CeeDee Lamb, 143 yards, lined up in the slot a ton. You're taking a look at the game summary right now. The Cowboys, 382 total yards. The number that stands out to me and really everybody is the third down percentage. 9 for 18 Dallas was. The Jets just 1 for 10 on third down. All right, let's check in with EA live from Dallas. EA, before we talk about this game, what are the injury updates on Garrett Wilson and Quincy Williams, both who exited the game late in the fourth quarter?
All right, let's start with Garrett Wilson. It sounds like he just had the wind knocked out of him here in the waning minutes of this ball game. Quincy Williams, though, I thought he had his best career game Monday night against the Buffalo Bills. He is being treated for a knee injury. We're going to have to find out about the severity tomorrow, perhaps. And then finally, nickel corner Michael Carter II. He exited his game in the first half. He was replaced in the lineup by Brandon Echols, but it sounds like the Jets were just taking a cautious approach with MC2, so that's good news.
Yeah, it felt like with Zach Wilson, this wasn't the formula that the Jets wanted to present him and this offense. The Jets trying to crawl back or climb back from a deficit, and really you see it on the lack of explosive plays, obviously minus the Garrett Wilson touchdown.
Yeah, it's a great point. Garrett Wilson goes to the house, 65 yards. I mean, that was a big momentum-changing play that the Jets couldn't capitalize on. When I look at this offense with Zach Wilson, I think of you got to have explosive plays, and we saw that from Garrett Wilson, and we saw that from Breece Hall Monday night against the Buffalo Bills, but the Jets are going to need more of that. Today specifically, Greens, the Cowboys, bottom line, they were selling out loaded boxes against this offense, single high safety, so they brought the heat all day, and the Jets weren't able to have a consistent run game. You want to have balance. In that second half, the Jets offensively really didn't get anything going, despite going into halftime being down just 1 score, and I thought that we're very fortunate to be down 18-10 after 2 quarters.
To your point, the Jets' 3 running backs, Breece Hall, 9 yards rushing. Michael Carter had 8. Dalvin Cook had 7. Really, the Jets' offensive line wasn't able to push momentum to get the running backs going. And we were here watching in the studio and in Florham Park the almost interception of Sauce Gardner that potentially could have given the Jets the lead early in the or late in the first half, should I say. Watching that play live, how big of a turning point was that in Dallas?
Well, it could have been for the Jets, right? Because they were dominated here early in this game, and it was 10-7, and Sauce Gardner, great read up the sideline in front of CeeDee Lamb, who had a tremendous game for the Dallas Cowboys, and that would have been a house call. And I think it would have been interesting to see what would have happened there. The Jets got to make plays when they're there to be made. Unfortunately, the Jets didn't get that play. The Cowboys go down the field. They finish with the touchdown. They finished that next possession with the touchdown. The Jets answered with the field goal, but not enough offense for this team in the second half. And then you're never going to win, Greens, when your defense is on the field for 90 plays. The Jets were good in the red zone, 2 of 6, I think the Cowboys ended up finishing. But, hey, listen, when you're giving a team 6 opportunities inside the 20, it's not a good day.
Awesome, EA. Appreciate the time. Get home safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris.
Conklin led all Jets with he led the Jets with 5 receptions for 50 yards, but that guy on your screen right there, Garrett Wilson, led the team, 83 receiving yards, 2 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And let's go inside our film breakdown powered by Microsoft Surface. Speaking of Garrett Wilson, let's take a look at his electrifying touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great play by Garrett Wilson and also by Zach. So on this play, usually you're going to have Lazard here take out the safety so that Garrett Wilson is one-on-one running this nice glance route. So we're going to start from the top right here. You see Garrett Wilson with a great inside release, creating separation with a stick at the top, and then Zach Wilson, great timing to give Garrett Wilson enough time to just make a play, do what he does. I really want to show the backside of this play because that's where you really see the magic happening. So as it goes forward, see the celebration. Congrats to this man. He's having a great year already, 2 touchdowns. So what I love about this play is Zach Wilson doesn't waste any time. So as he goes back in his drop, it's a stick your foot in the ground, and right when he sticks, you also get to see Garrett Wilson sticking at the top. Boom. Right on the money. Safety doesn't have a chance to make a play, and he gives this guy a chance to run off.
Look, it was a great pitch and catch. It was a timely pitch and catch, too. The Jets needed a big play. Those two, Wilson and Wilson, actually almost connected right before the half, too, which would have been a big play.
Yeah, and it was a great play there, too. You're just watching Garrett Wilson do a great job of understanding leverage, understanding how to run his routes, and he's just continuing to get better every week.
Between those two, the Wilsons last year couldn't find the end zone, but 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks for those guys. And Bob Wischusen caught up with the Jets quarterback, Zach Wilson.
Zach, where do you think today went wrong for your offense? If you had to pinpoint something, what do you look to improve next week, most importantly?
Yeah, I think it starts with establishing drives. I mean, Saleh just gave us a stat. We were 1 for 10 on 3rd downs today, and that's not going to win you many football games or score you many points. And so how can we go back and watch the film and see where we can be better start on 3rd down?
Their defense clouds the picture. They also have some really good individual pass rushers. Micah Parsons was Micah Parsons today. So is that about as good a defense as maybe you've seen?
Yeah, man, those guys did a good job. You got to give them credit up front. They made it tough on us, tough in the pocket to keep working it. But we're going to go watch this film and just see where we can keep trying to improve.
It was a short week against a really good team. Now you get a full week to practice normally and knowing that you're the starter. You always look for a learning experience, right? Like, what did you learn from today's game that you're going to hopefully take forward?
Yeah, just how can I keep doing my part to get this offense going? I'm going to go back and watch the first 3 quarters of this game, see where that separation, how we got down, how I can keep us back in those games, converting on 3rd downs, giving us 3rd and manageables, and then, if a game gets out of hand, not trying to press to do too much at the end.
Zach, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great stuff from Bob, great stuff from Zach Wilson, and great stuff from Quincy on the telestrator. But I think it's time that we focus on the turning point here, Quincy. And I think this is one, it's pretty obvious. And Anthony, I think you'd agree with this. But Quincy, let's start with you. The turning point was Sauce Gardner not picking off that football. And as you take a look at the play right here, 2nd and 3, that could have been a Jets lead if he picks that off cleanly, runs it the other way. Jets could have been up 14-10 with 5+ minutes left in the first half. Then the Jets would get the ball back in the third quarter. Instead, Quincy, what happens? The Cowboys drive down the length of the field. They end up with a 13-play, 75-yard drive that ends in a touchdown. They go up 18-7, largely in part not only because of that play, but because of penalties by the Jets defense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we talk all the time about Sauce needing to get more interceptions, get his hands on the ball. That was his opportunity right there, and he completely misses it. And it wasn't even a hard catch, right? That's one of the easiest ones he's going to get all year. So I know he regrets it. And unfortunately, from there, you could just tell that the win was just taken out of the sails for the team because they went down the field, they had unfortunate penalties, and then from there, the offense was like, okay, well, now it's our turn, and they weren't doing anything. So it's tough when you have one side of the ball that's being beaten down and the other side of the ball that just can't get it going. You know, you need those type of plays. Those are the type of plays that you need, explosive plays, right? Garrett Wilson's touchdown was a huge explosive play that gave them a little bit of momentum, and that would have been just another one that the team needed in that moment, and, you know, that's why it was a turning point.
EA mentioned, should I say, that he thinks that this offense and really this team needed a couple more explosives. Anthony, when you take a look at the formula to win against the Bills, you had the Breece Hall long rush that was 80+ yards, the special teams touchdown. That Sauce Gardner almost interception, obviously we don't know how the rest of the game would have played out, but do you think that could have and would have injected life into the offense and play a brand of football that we did not see in the second half?
I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't know what the identity of this offense is right now. Okay, we got a new play caller. We don't have Aaron Rodgers, and we didn't see anything today. So moving forward, like, how do you take the steps to improve? Okay, what are we going to do to get other guys involved? Okay, Allen Lazard's making $40 million. Okay, you can't have 2 catches. Find a way to get him the football. Okay, he's a 50-50 guy too, so you don't have to be open to get him the football. What's the plan for him? You know, Dalvin Cook. I mean, listen. You know, they're going to go back and forth. They're going to take their reps. But at the same token, we got to find a hot hand, you know, because the more guys you change, you know, you got to figure out how that rotation is going to be. You know, the rotation's fine, but, you know, how are you going to utilize them so that they can create explosive plays? And again, down and distance and situations always determine how and when and how much you can run the football. But again, being creative, you know, there's a pass. You can throw passes that are similar to runs. Receiver screens, whatever that may be. And then maybe they weren't the answer, but just a little bit more creativity to help Zach, a little bit more creativity to get your playmakers balls in their hand because they can make plays. And, you know, again, it can't just be, you know, we got to lean on Garrett Wilson to do everything. I mean, he's a one. He's a dog. I mean, he's going to make his plays, but he can't be the only guy going into this game that, you know, has the opportunity to make an explosive play. So, again, we need to see what the identity and what this team's going to be. There's nothing there today to tell us what that is. So we're going to have to wait another week of work to see, okay, hey, we put it in place. We didn't get the results we wanted. All right, this is the formula how teams should attack us, because if I'm Patriots are next week, right? If I'm the Patriots, okay, I'm doing the same thing. All right, how are they going to fix it? So that's the league. That's how it's going to be. So, again, if you can't pass the ball and be effective in the pass and you have a solid secondary, guys can man up, and your pass rush is good. Now, I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to go 4 down and have the disruption that Dallas had, but they can mix it up with blitzes and things of that nature. So, again, what are those answers? So we'll see what that looks like. Everybody's going to try to stop the run, but you got to be able to run the football as well. So what's your counter? We'll find out next week.
I think it's a great point, AB. And going back to the turning point with Sauce Gardner, almost had the interception, another potential turning point. Sauce Gardner rips the ball out of somebody's hands. I don't remember who it was. And Tyler Biotish, the Cowboys center, runs up behind, scoops up the ball when if he were not there, the Jets would have recovered the ball in Dallas territory. And for more on the defensive performance, let's check in with Caroline Hendershot with CJ Mosley.
Here with CJ Mosley. CJ, what was Coach Saleh's message after the game?
Tomorrow, you know, there's a lot of plays on everybody's body. Come in, get our work in, get our mind right, and, you know, get ready for next Sunday. We got a division game, got another rival opponent, so we got to get our minds right.
What do you think the defense struggled with the most today?
The biggest things for us is just getting off the field on third down. Wasn't a lot of penalties, but the ones we did get, they kept the drive going. They kept us on the field. Took time away from our offense, and whether they scored or not, it still ended up in a field goal or a touchdown. So, for us, we just got to be able to get off the field on third down.
Now, looking ahead, you mentioned New England Patriots come to MetLife. What do you take from this game and build on this week at practice?
For us, it's just always about execution. It's going to be a different game plan. I'm talking from a defensive standpoint. But, we're always trying to find a way to get the ball off the offense. So we didn't really get turnovers this game. We had one. Sauce almost had one. But, we just got to take advantage of our opportunities. Especially if the team's going to run the ball more, our chances are going to go down a little bit. So we just got to be able to find a way. Find a way to get off the field, find a way to cause a turnover.
Awesome. Appreciate the time, CJ.
Yeah, thank you.
That was C.J. Mosley, who co-led the team along with Ashton Davis, or with Jordan Whitehead, with 9 tackles. He also had 1 tackle for loss, a QB hit, and a pass defense. Let's bring back in Anthony Beck for our report cards. AB, let's start with you. I don't think you're in a very giving mood right now in terms of your report cards, but what grades are you giving what units?
Don't show it yet. Real quick, I just want to respond to CJ. He's the coolest cat there is, right? You clearly see there's nothing on his emotion that shows you he's worried. And from a player standpoint, I know where he's at. He's right. It's one game. It doesn't mean anything after that moment. It's done. You move on. I think for us, though, as we see it, what do we hang our hat on? And again, as we look at these grades, these are the questions that we're all going to want to see moving forward. So just in this game alone, starting with the offense, it's a D. All right, we didn't see anything. Nobody made plays. There was one explosive play in the game, and it was sweet now. Okay, that pass to Garrett Wilson was beautiful, and him taking it to the house, that's awesome. Okay, but they're not going to give that up. Those are hard to come by. The pass rush, the way it was, and not having balance today, okay, the offense had nowhere to go in this football game, and there were no real wrinkles or changes to be creativity to really change that up. So that's a D. Defensively is a D. Pass rush was disappointing today, number 1. All right, I didn't see anybody get close to the quarterback, okay? We didn't dress our number 1 draft pick, okay, because we're worried about his size and he can't get there. Well, I'll tell you what now, this kid's a motor, okay? He's going to run. He's going to chase, all right? He's not going to get blocked as much. He's going to spin. He's going to be a disruptor, okay? And I think he should be dressed, okay? We'll see what that looks like, all right, moving forward. I get it. Carl Lawson, veteran. He's a guy that obviously hasn't done much in the practice standpoint from training camp. And again, we got to find ways to get there. And he ain't the only guy. It's just got to happen across the board. But I think Will McDonald needs to be on the field, okay, because nobody's getting there. Tremaine Johnson's got to continue to pick it up. We need to see it get close. We see it get close, that's one thing. But those third downs weren't good enough. They were clearly the issue of not getting on the field. So it's a D for the defense as well. Special teams gets a B. They did everything they were supposed to do, and they didn't, they had the fake punt, which is great, but they weren't able to take advantage of doing anything from there. So again, you got a lot to learn in this film across the board, okay? From the coaching staffs to the play callers to the players to the quarterbacks to all the pieces to evaluate yourself critically so that you can improve yourself the next week. And that's what the NFL is all about. That's how players, all right, they can shut it off. They see it. They take that constructive criticism from a head coach, from his coaching staff in the meeting room, and then trickle down to the players from their individual coaches, from their coordinators as well. All right, everybody takes that information in, and then you come back and you play better and you execute better. So that's what we want to see next week. But for this game, it's not good enough, and it wasn't going to be good enough from the start.
Yep. So my grades are pretty similar to AB's. I think I felt just the same way. I really wanted to change it. I wanted to be different, but I just had no reason to be different here, right? So off the top, we'll go offense. I give them a D. I think when we say offense, we usually talk about the players, but I think offense as a whole, also the coordinators, I think it's important to look in the mirror for them as well. What could we have done differently? When I look at the run game just couldn't get going. There was nothing that was working. The O-line wasn't able to get there, but not just the O-line, right? Because we tend to be hard on the O-line. It was also the tight ends that were in protection as well. Nobody could get a push to really create space for the running backs to make plays. The passing game then suffered because of that, right? Because this is a team that builds off their run game. If you can't build off the run game and then throw the ball, how can you really be successful? You saw an opportunity there with that explosive play where there was a play action pass into the pass play, but other than that, they just really couldn't get anything going. So, I gave the offense a D. With the defense, that's also a D there as well. The loss of MC2 somewhere around there also obviously didn't help. They immediately went and attacked his backup. So that they were watching that. I saw a good mixture of man and zone, but it didn't matter because Dak Prescott was able to find the holes and as well find the guys that were open in man as well. So it was a tough showing for the defense. The defensive line wasn't doing what they needed to do. And these are the guys that I feel like are really the anchors of this team. On the defensive side, it's the defensive line. On the offensive side, it's the offensive line. And neither one of those units did what they needed to do today. And then with special teams, I gave them a B. That's kind of like my baseline. They did what they were supposed to do. There was no bad plays, but unfortunately also no explosive plays this week.
Two former players speaking the same language. Offense, defense both have a B. Special team or have a D. Special teams has the B. Ashton Davis, to Anthony Beck's point, did have the fake punt that was converted successfully. The Jets were not able to muster up any points. They then punted 3 plays after that. And let's take a look at a couple tweets from postgame from the players. Let's start with DJ Reed. He says, "Gotta be better, and I will be." And then Sauce Gardner echoing similar sentiments, actually responding to DJ Reed's tweet. He says, "We'll be good, broski. Don't worry about it, 100%. And so, Anthony, let me start with you on this for this Jets defense, specifically those guys. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb. He had 11 targets, or 13 targets, 11 catches, 143 receiving yards, was held out of the end zone. Stephon Diggs had 90-plus receiving yards on Monday night. He found the end zone. Are you concerned at all about this Jets secondary, or you think that this is still early in the season, the talent's there, and everything's going to find its way similarly to last season over the course of the next couple of weeks?
Well, collectively, they are one of the best secondaries in the league. They're just not playing like it right now. Even this game, they'll get it right, but, they need interjection now. Okay. This isn't their first year together. This is a group that knows each other well. Tony Adams got dinged up today. So, where are you at the safety position now? Amos steps in, he's a box guy. They got to mesh and play better together. That's just what it is right now. They're not living up to the billing. That's just bottom line. They'll say it, and the film says it as well. So, are they one of the best groups in the league? Of course they are. But again, it's been a slow start, and collectively they have to all play better together. And when they do that, they're the best in the league. So we need to see that moving forward. And it's got to happen now. You got a big game next week. Like, every game's big, but again, when you have a quarterback that's not A-Rod, and you got to find ways to make it work as a team, your strengths have to be really good, and they weren't good today. So that's what you have to take out of this performance and move on. And again, you hate saying it's just less words, more actions, right? Like, we know what everybody wants to be and what they're trying to do. That's great, and Twitter's great, and we love to post things, and that's awesome. But at the end of the day, let's just go to work, come out and do your part and be what you're supposed to be. And that's how it'll get done each and every week. And I expect that's my expectation level. When they talked about wanting to be the best defense, I agreed. They should be the best defense, but man, it's got to happen on a consistent basis. It can't just show up, at home. It can't just show up in divisional games. You got to go up against these guys that are potential Super Bowl contenders. Dallas looks like they're one of those teams from what I've seen in 2 weeks. So that's where you measure yourself. Regardless of what you did last year, regardless how the preseason went, that's your measuring stick today. And then you got to raise that stick, or you keep it even, or it gets lower. There's only 3 ways to go. So again, hopefully it's upward trajectory heading into next week.
Yeah, I appreciate DJ getting ahead of it, right? Because he understood that his role in the game was not him being his best self, right? So, as much as we go back and forth about guys getting on social media and making comments and stuff, I think that it's important for them to understand that it's good to take accountability, right? You're seeing that from the players, and then I also appreciate Sauce's note as well, because he says, we're going to be better, right? This is one of those things that it's a week-to-week thing. Not to get too far ahead. It's easy for us to sit here and get upset about these things and then make it a global issue, right? But as players, you got to think about it week to week. Think about it as though this is one mistake, but I still have a whole season, a season-long journey to keep getting better and to keep improving off of this last film. So, I think that it's one game, and it wasn't their best game. And like AB said, this is possibly a Super Bowl team, right? So, you have to watch the film and figure out where do you go next.
At the end of the day, after 2 weeks, the Jets are 1-1, and taking a look at their upcoming schedule, they take on the New England Patriots, another division opponent, next week. Actually, the Patriots and Dolphins are currently playing on Sunday Night Football. Miami leads New England by a score of 3-0 at the top of the second quarter. And the Jets have a real tough schedule, especially weeks 3 through 6. When you look at the Patriots, then the Chiefs at home, then the Jets go out to Denver, which is always a tough trip, and then the Jets wrap up before the bye hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Super Bowl champs, the NFC champs, will be at MetLife over the next couple weeks here, which brings us to our final thoughts, Anthony. And to me, taking a look at that schedule, how do the Jets put this behind them, and what do they need to change, in your opinion, more than anything else, to give them a chance post-bye to really make a run?
Well, it's a good litmus test, all right, for up to the bye. That's clear. Super Bowl champs, Super Bowl runner-ups. You started out with the Bills, and then, of course, today's game. And, again, you sprinkle in an improved Denver team who took it to the wire, who's a much better football team because of their head coach. Listen, you just got to play better. Listen, it's like a want to, right? You got to go out there and do it. You have to execute at a high level. And, football is tough because, if Jordan's on and he makes his 40 and he blows up, you could win because of that, in most games. Guys feed off that. Well, in football, you got to have more guys play at a high level to win football games across the board to get the result that you want. Very few teams can just roll out on the field and just demand respect and victory. I mean, it's just hard now. There's a lot of parity. The really good teams are not as high above some of the mediocre, quote unquote, teams that we see out there that we think who are mediocre. You can be beat at any moment. So yeah, we all know Dallas is a good team. Okay. But Dallas is going to lose a bad game somewhere. They're going to lose their path at some point. They're going to have a bad loss, but you can't step on the field, regardless of the team you're playing, whether they got a rookie quarterback or whoever it may be. There's always the danger if you're not dialed in, okay, for that moment. So next week's presents a new challenge. All right, divisional game, okay, playing the Pats. All right, this is like, a hated rivalry. Those things right there, get it cooking. And then from there, you can turn this thing around real quick. And now all of a sudden my conversations are cheery, high-fiving, and feeling really good. But we talk about the moment, okay? Does this equate anything moving forward to the future? No, because there's not enough information to say that this is how the Jets will continue to be. So we got to see what this looks like. And I think having that bye week 7, playing these next couple games against the teams we're playing, that's how you're going to know where you stand. Because after the bye, you're kind of like, this is what you are. Nobody's going to come in to save you. There's nobody on the street that's going to play quarterback for you that's going to be off the charts, okay? This is where you're at as a team. So they have a chance now, next week, another opportunity to live up to that billing, play it to that standard, and just execute. Each individual guy, when they all execute, the team executes, and it comes out, you'll come out with a win.
Anthony, well said. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week as the Jets take on the New England Patriots Sunday, September 23rd, 1 p.m. Quincy, from your perspective, if you're a Jets fan watching this right now, why should they not be worried about the state of this team after losing 30-10?
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. You're talking about a 1-1 team, right? So at the end of the day, you're 1-1 and you're 1-0 in the division. Those are the most important things, right? It's a bad loss, right? But there's so many different factors involved in this game. For one, this is Zach's first game really starting with this new offense. There's a lot that was expected going into this season that has to be shifted, right? We expected it to be an Aaron Rodgers team that would take them to the Super Bowl. Everything was kind of built around that. Even some of the play calling during training camp was different. You could tell that there was some quick passes going on during training camp that Aaron really understood and had a great idea of how it was supposed to be ran, that now it has to be completely flipped up. So we got to remember that. It's going to take a little bit of a process in order to be where the Jets were supposed to be. It won't be the Aaron Rodgers-led team because that's a different team, but it'll be the Zach Wilson-led team, and you saw today that he was poised, right? He was confident. He was making some great throws. Even that throw that he threw to Allen Lazard on the left sideline that ended up coming back, that was a great throw. If Lazard got his foot in, I mean, that's without the penalty as well. But overall, you're talking about a new and improved Zach Wilson, a guy that's confident and his teammates are confident in him. So you just got to keep that in mind. It's 1-1. You're playing a great Dallas team, a team that beat another team last week 40-0. So let's see how they do in the division next week. You're going to have a whole new challenge. They don't have the same pass rusher as Dallas does, but they do have a head coach that does a good job against young quarterbacks. So let's see how this team does, play calling wise, offensively, defensively. Then you can start to get a better picture, right? Because we're just getting a very small idea of who this team is right now.
I think it's very well said, and I think you're absolutely right. You did see a different Zach Wilson. I think we saw the best version of Zach Wilson right before the end of the first half, where he was making quick decisions. He was decisive with the football. And if you're a Jets fan watching this, at the end of the day, your team's 1-1. And they have an opportunity to be 2-0 in the conference, 2-0 in the division after next week. Next week's a big game. Every week's a big game, and so on and so forth as the Jets embark on their 2023 journey with Zach Wilson and without Aaron Rodgers. That's all we have here on Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM here in the Audi Performance Studio. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with you next Sunday for Pregame Central when the Jets host the Patriots.